All right, let's get into it. You've seen it a million times, right? In movies, at work, on the sports field. There's always that super aggressive, dominant person who just seems to shoot to the top. The story we're told is that to win, you gotta be tough, you gotta be intimidating. But is that really the whole story?
That's the big question we're tackling today. We're going to look at the real science behind our social ladders and, really challenge that classic alpha stereotype. Is being aggressive truly the secret sauce for success, or is something much more interesting going on behind the scenes?
So first up, let's talk about what we'll call the alpha myth. We're going to deconstruct this very common idea that being forceful is the main way, maybe the only way, to get power. Now, there's a reason we all believe this. The drive to improve our status is, well, a huge motivator for us. And a lot of the time, it's a major source of conflict. I mean, get this. Research shows that for about 48% of men and 45% of women, the main reason for their last aggressive act was all about status and reputation. So yeah, our desire to get ahead is definitely tangled up with our aggressive side. But the real question is, does it actually work?
Okay, so let's stick in, because this is where the whole narrative we've been sold starts to fall apart. See, science shows us that there isn't just one path to the top. There are actually two very different strategies that people use to gain rank and influence.
Let's meet our two contenders, dominance and prestige. You can think of it like the boss versus the mentor. The dominance path is what we all think of as the classic alpha. You take power by force, by being intimidating. But then there's the prestige path, which is all about earning influence. People give you power because they actually respect your skills and what you know.
And just to be clear, the dominance path is a very old, very real evolutionary strategy. It's all about control. If you're using this strategy, you're relying on threats and aggression to keep your spot. Sure, it can be a fast way to get to the top, but it's shaky. A throne built on fear is always at risk of being overthrown, right? These people command, they don't convince.
The prestige path, though, is a whole different ballgame. Here, status isn't taken, it's given. It's built on what you can do and how generous you are with your knowledge. Think about that one expert on your team, the person everyone goes to for advice. Their influence comes from what they know and their willingness to help. This path is usually slower, for sure, but the status you gain is way more stable because it's built on real respect.
So let's go a layer deeper and look at the actual science of our brains, because our biology is kind of wired for both of these strategies. This isn't just a matter of choice or personality. Our own hormones are pulling the strings.
So you've probably heard a million times that testosterone is the hormone that drives aggression and status seeking. And it is, but it's not that simple. It's not just a gas pedal you slam to the floor. There's a theory called the dual hormone hypothesis, and it says that testosterone's effects are massively influenced by another hormone, cortisol. That's our main stress hormone. So if testosterone is the gas, think of cortisol as the brake.
Okay, you really have to see how this works because the interplay is fascinating. Look at that top row. The go-getter combination is high testosterone but with low cortisol. That's the profile for assertive, effective leadership. But check out the second row. If you have that same high testosterone, but you also have high cortisol, meaning you're stressed out, that drive for status just gets shut down. You actually become more anxious, less willing to take risks, and way down at the bottom, low testosterone with high cortisol is linked to submissive behavior. So you see, it's the balance of the two, not just one hormone, that shapes how we play the social game.
And all of this brings us to the central paradox of this whole topic. Given everything we think we know about being aggressive to get ahead, well, the science is about to flip the script.
So let's really put this old myth to the test. If aggression is the key to winning, then we should see the most successful people, the top teams, behaving the most aggressively, right? But is that what the data actually shows us?
Nope, not even close. In fact, it is the exact opposite. When scientists studied top-tier professional sports leagues, we're talking soccer, ice hockey, they found this incredibly consistent pattern. It's the low-ranking teams that commit way more aggressive fouls. The teams at the top, the winners, they actually play with less aggression.
And this isn't just some weird thing that happens in sports. They tested this in the lab, under controlled conditions. They had people play a competitive game and then messed with their feeling of status. The result? The participants who were put in the low-status position, the ones who kept losing, consistently chose to punish their opponents with louder, nastier, more aggressive blasts of sound. So here's the kicker. Aggression doesn't look like a tool that winners use. It looks like a reaction from the frustrated, a tool used by people who feel like they're in a lower status spot. And look,
Don't just take my word for it. The researchers themselves put it perfectly. Their results flat out contradict the stories we tell ourselves about needing to be aggressive to win.
Okay, so why does any of this matter? Because this isn't just some abstract idea for a psychology class. Where we stand on the social ladder has deep, very real consequences for our lives, for our health, for everything.
There's a term for this, coined by researcher Sir Michael Marmot. He calls it the status syndrome, and it points to a pretty shocking reality. Your health is directly tied to your social status. There's a clear, measurable gradient. The lower you are on the ladder, the higher your risk of getting sick and, frankly, of dying sooner.
And you can see the stakes right here. Low status is linked to all these tangible, awful outcomes. We're talking higher chronic stress, more financial instability, and just that feeling of not having control over your own life. All of these things create this downward spiral for your health, making social rank quite literally a matter of life and death.
So what's the big takeaway here? This drive for status is a core part of what makes us human. But the path to success isn't just a single, aggressive, bloody climb. There are two roads, dominance and prestige, and they each have their own rules. And in the great paradox of it all, it's often the people with less status who end up lashing out with aggression, not the ones at the top.
And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about. In your own life, in your career, in the leaders you admire, which path are you on? Which path are they on? Is influence being taken by force, or is it being earned through respect? The answer to that question says a whole lot about who we are and the kind of world we're building.